The Expanse Season 5 finale is out now, and we made a video explaining the mysteries and character arcs of the season, which you can watch at the link below if you haven't already. But there's also a lot of cool stuff in the book series that wasn't included in Season 5, like Bobby surfing a missile in space and saving the Martian Prime Minister, for example, as well as a lot of character moments, world details, and thematic stuff. So, how does Season 5 of the show compare to the books, and what cool bits didn't get included? This video has info from the first 5 books and novellas, but no spoilers from the later books, so it's safe if you just watch the show. Each book in The Expanse is told from the point of view of a different set of characters. So, the first 5 books all have Holden chapters, but Book 1 also has Miller chapters. Book 2 has Avasarala and Bobby and Prax. Book 3 has Anna, Clarissa, and Bull. Book 4, Elvie, Barcia, and Havelock. Book 5, Nemesis Games, is the first time we get chapters from Naomi, Amos, and Alex's point of view. In the early books, Amos and Alex are pretty minor characters. They're actually more fleshed out in the TV show. But in Book 5, each of the Rosie crew go off on their own stories, and we get inside their heads for the first time as the worlds change dramatically around them. Season 5 adds plotlines about Avasarala and Drummer, but Nemesis Games is about Holden, Alex, Naomi, and Amos. So when Holden is alone on Tycho, he really struggles to cope. He needs to be around people, but he's uncomfortable with how strangers treat him like a celebrity. So Holden spends some nights in a crappy Italian restaurant drinking mediocre margaritas. And before long, he is crying, drunk on bourbon, with his pants off, talking to his spaceship in the dark. Being unable to help his crew when they're in danger is a nightmare for Holden, and his emotions are all over the place. Luckily, Monica keeps him busy. In the TV show, Monica investigates a plot to steal Fred's protomolecule, but in the book, Monica investigates colony ships that have disappeared at the ring gates. In the show, there's just one ship that disappears in the finale, destroyed by mysterious aliens. But in the book, there's like a dozen civilian ships that just disappear. At first, Monica and Holden think this is related to Marco and Duarte's black market ships, and it's only at the end of the book that they realize, oh shit, aliens have been eating people this whole time. Those colony ships were destroyed by the entities in the ring. At one point, Monica asks Holden to use Fred's protomolecule to try to reconnect to the consciousness of Miller and ask him what's vanishing the ships, like a seance to summon a ghost, but Holden refuses. So Monica gets kidnapped, and in the books, it's kind of Holden's fault, because Holden blabs about Monica's investigation to Sakai, who is secretly working for Marco. So once again, Holden's habit of sharing sensitive information creates trouble. As Avasarala says, Holden's record for blurting information is the stuff of legend. But later, Holden chooses to keep it a secret that Fred's protomolecule was stolen to prevent panic. He actually withholds information for once. So Holden does learn from his mistakes. He's changed. Holden and Fred find Monica because Monica's terminal is still connected to a hidden camera. In the books, there's an extra step here because Monica's terminal is smashed. The device still works, but the screen is shattered and scrambled into shards of glass. So they get help from a scientist. Astronomers interpret light that reflects and refracts around planets and stars and stuff. So this scientist uses those same principles to decipher the light that's scattered by this smashed screen, creating like a digital algorithmic lens to resolve it into a visible image, and that's how they find Monica. So it's always cool when there's some science in the sci-fi. In the show, Marco's people attack Tycho Station and kill Fred Johnson. In the book, Fred does get shot, but he survives. In fact, he fights back this attack in badass fashion. He toughs out the bullet wounds, coordinates a defense, and he uses this secret code that he's got with Drummer to set an ambush on the attackers. 'Cause this is Colonel Frederick Lucius Johnson, the butcher of Anderson Station, traitor to Earth. He's an experienced military tactician, and he's prepared for this kind of thing. So he fights back and survives. Still, Marco's attack and the rise of the Free Navy is a huge blow to Fred politically. It shows that Fred can't control his own base. He no longer speaks for the belt when these radicals are in power. Anderson Dawes tells Fred to cooperate with Marco, and Fred seriously considers joining Marco's side and trying to make peace, to moderate the radicals from within. Holden says it's bullshit for Fred to change sides again, like when he left Earth to go help the Belt, but Fred said he never changed sides, the sides keep changing around him. Fred will join whatever faction can do the most good, but in this new political situation, it's not obvious which faction that is. Holden argues that Marco is obviously the bad guy here, and ultimately Fred agrees to go work with Avasarala, Earth, and Mars. Alex goes back to Mars to reconnect with his ex-wife Talissa. In the show, they have a son called Melis, but in the books, Alex doesn't have a son, as far as he knows. Avasarala once mentions that Alex has a son that he doesn't know about, which is weird. Did Talissa hide his son from him, or is the mother some other woman? The books don't say. Alex helps Bobby investigate the black market Martian military gear. So in the show, Alex talks with Solitaire and Babbage, but in the books, Alex talks to Duarte. Duarte appears to be just this average military bureaucrat guy, described as likable and competent. Duarte tells Alex that he's aware of the black market ships and is investigating, but is powerless to stop it. It's only at the end of the book that you realize, holy shit, that Duarte guy was lying. He was the secret mastermind behind the black market ships and Laconia all along. So, Alex and Bobby investigate the missing ships on the Razorback, and in the book, they also rescue the Prime Minister of Mars from an attack by Marco. Marco's plan is even more ambitious in the books, because he tries to kill the leader of Mars as well as Fred Johnson and Holden and Earth. The Martian Prime Minister's name is Nathan Smith. He's described as polite and inoffensive, and he just sort of tags along in the back seat while Alex and Bobby go and save Naomi. When Bobby wears her power armor, she can't fit in her seat on the Razorback, so instead she just rips out the seat and she just stands there the whole time, bracing herself on the walls in high G with sheer strength. The Razorback can't safely get to Naomi fast enough, so Bobby hops on a missile and rides it as it's fired next to Naomi, and that's how they grab her in the book. But in the show, they race in on the Razorback, and Alex dies of a stroke from their high G burn, which is a risk they mention in the books. But in Book 5, Alex doesn't die. It looks like they killed him off in the show because the actor isn't returning next season. Maybe in the show, Bull will take his place as pilot on the Rosie. Bull is a weird addition to the show, because in the books, he only appears in Book 3, playing a similar role to Drummer in Season 3. Naomi is taken prisoner by her emotionally manipulative terrorist ex Marco and their son Philip. And in the book, she goes to a really dark place. All the old trauma and fear and guilt from her past comes flooding back. Being around Marco again makes her question her identity. Is she a prisoner, a terrorist collaborator, a mother? She doesn't know which is her real self. In her despair, Naomi draws strength by thinking of Amos. She asks herself, what would Amos do? Which is funny, because Amos is not exactly a model of wisdom and good decision-making, but Amos's resilience and emotional detachment is what Naomi needs to survive this fear and trauma. And at the same time that Naomi draws strength from Amos, Amos thinks of Naomi and tries to emulate her in his relationship with Clarissa. So it's beautiful that even when they're a zillion miles apart, Naomi and Amos's bond makes both of them stronger. So Marco attacks Earth, kills billions of people, and starts a militant Belter uprising. And in the book, he has more specific reasons for doing this. Because Belters are a people and a culture adapted to space. Their economy is based on mining asteroids in the belt. But now there are hundreds of new worlds beyond the ring with resources that are way easier to extract, on planets with free air and water. So the asteroids and stations of the belt have no economic future. But Belters' bodies are adapted to life in that low gravity. In the books, Belters look very different to Inners. They're tall and thin, with big heads and weak bones. Many Belters can't survive on a planet with full gravity, like how Naomi couldn't live on Ilus. And for the Belters who can live on planets, after a generation in gravity, they wouldn't be Belters anymore. The ring is a threat to the very existence of the Belter people, so part of Marco's goal is to block off access to the ring gate. He lets Duarte go to Laconia, but he doesn't let anyone else through, holding the solar system captive to preserve a future for the Belt. Fred compares Marco to Alexander the Great, who defeated a Persian emperor at the Battle of Gaugamela, which is the title of Episode 4. At Gaugamela, Alexander was way outnumbered, but he won because he saw an opportunity and was brave and audacious enough to take it, just like Marco had the audacity to defeat Earth. But Fred wonders if Marco really is as great as Alexander, or if he just thinks he is. The book emphasizes how fake and superficial Marco is. He's really good at appearing noble and powerful, but it's a mask. And when that mask slips, Naomi sees a rage-filled boy behind it. When Naomi and Holden reunite at the end of the book, that's when Naomi tells Holden about Marco and Philip and her past for the first time. When she leaves at the start of the book, she doesn't tell Holden where she's going, just that she needs to go do something and needs to do it herself. It's important to her that Holden respects Naomi's right to fight her own battles and to keep her own secrets. Holden has to learn that he doesn't get to know everything and control everything. Naomi tells Holden about her past when she's ready, on her terms, and that makes their bond even stronger. After she recovers from her ordeal, Naomi feels at peace for the first time in a while. Amos goes back to Earth, and on the way, he meets a Belter couple called Django and Rico. In the book, these guys have a daughter called Wendy, and Amos makes a special effort to protect her, and buys her an ice cream. He later sees a street kid in Baltimore and wants to help him too. Amos has always had a particular need to help children, because of how terrible his own childhood was. Amos's backstory is explored in a novella called The Churn, and the show included the basic details, that as a child, Amos's name was Timothy, and he was sexually exploited in organized crime. A woman called Lydia was like a mother to Timothy. But what the show leaves out is that in The Churn, when Timothy was about 15, he and Lydia also had a sexual relationship. It says that they weren't lovers, they weren't mother and son, they were just Lydia and Timothy, and in their strange, complicated relationship, they found comfort in each other. In the show, Amos picks up this glazed mug, which is mentioned in The Churn as a gift that 8-year-old Timothy gave Lydia for her birthday. So Timothy and Lydia's relationship was tender and wrong and sweet and dark, and it made Amos who he is now. After the asteroids hit, the books describe the apocalyptic devastation of Earth. Ash rains down, coating everything with a layer of grey, blocking out the sun like a funeral shroud over the planet. All the plants start dying, animals freak out. All over the world, food and water runs out, there's riots and looting. The birthplace of humanity is in its death throes, and billions die. But unlike the other characters, Amos doesn't feel horror or fear at this catastrophe. He doesn't ever worry about what he can't control. He only thinks about how to survive in the present. So Amos and Clarissa escape the pit and survive apocalyptic America together. Amos calls Clarissa Peaches, because in Book 3, Clarissa calls herself Melba, and a peach Melba is a kind of dessert, so Peaches. He also calls Clarissa Little Tomato once, for some reason, which is also adorable. Previously, Amos called Anna Red, because she's a redhead in the books. Amos calls Konachek Tiny, which is interesting because in The Churn, Amos's crime boss called Amos Tiny. So Amos is a man with a fake name who calls others by many different names. There's a moment in the show where Clarissa mentions faking an ID, and Amos and Eric smile at each other. Because in The Churn, Eric created the fake ID that made Timothy into Amos Burton. So Amos and Clarissa and Eric find a ship to escape Earth at Lake Winnipesaukee. It's this enclave where rich people have holiday homes, and the books describe how luxurious everything is, with the mansions and boathouses and a genetically engineered dog, and this ship called the Zhangguo. The books describe its opulent decorations in silver and gold and velvet. It's this giant, lavish, totally impractical ship, more of a statement of wealth than a means of transport. Avasarala later calls it a gaudy turd. And this highlights the inequality on Earth. We've seen that many people live in poverty and squalor on basic, and here are these arseholes with mansions that are bigger than the housing blocks that could fit thousands. But in the end, all of that wealth doesn't mean shit in the apocalypse, and it's the mansion's staff, along with Amos and Clarissa and Eric, who use the ship to escape Earth. Amos says that in times of conflict, human groups fracture into small, hostile tribes. Everything that keeps societies civilized, like laws and countries and money, are just stories, and when the shit hits the fan, those stories die and violence starts. Clarissa has a more optimistic, inclusive perspective, like when she makes friends with the staff at Winnipesaukee to peacefully grow their tribe. So she tells Amos that yes, peace and civilization are just stories, but people are really good at telling stories that can bring people back together. In the end, Amos brings Clarissa to join the crew on the Rosie, even though Clarissa tried to kill them all once. And in the book, he physically smuggles her onto the ship inside a crate, and Clarissa pops out like a jack-in-the-box and scares Alex, and it's great. So, overall, Season 5 is a pretty close adaptation of Nemesis Games, though reading the book does add some detail and depth. Throughout all the storylines in Book 5, there's a lot of thought and reflection about aging and change. Because in Nemesis Games, the worlds and politics of the Expanse are dramatically shaken, heading for a radically different future. But the characters are still so defined by their pasts. Shit changes, and doesn't, Eric says. Naomi thinks that things change and they don't change back. We can't undo the damage of the past. But even when everything goes wrong and when all our tribes are split apart, we're also really good at telling stories to put things back together again. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and thank you to Amazon Prime Video UK for sponsoring this video. We've made 4 videos for The Expanse Season 5, and you can watch them all at the links below. Cheers.